The sky was supposed to be a bridge to a happy Christmas reunion, but instead it became a doorway to a nightmare that no human being was ever meant to survive. Imagine being 17 years old sitting in a cramped airplane seat, clutching your mother's hand while the world outside the window turns into a violent swirl of black clouds and jagged lightning. This is the story of Julianne Koepka, name that would soon be etched into history as the girl who fell from the sky and walked out of the green hell alive. It was December 24th, 1971, a day of joy for millions, but for the 92 souls aboard Lanza Flight 508, it was the beginning of the end. Julianne and her mother Maria were traveling from Lima to Pucallpa to meet her father, a famous biologist. The flight was short, just an hour, but as they crossed the treacherous peaks of the Andes Mountains, the atmosphere turned hostile. The plane began to bounce like a toy in the hands of a giant, and suddenly the cabin went dark. People were screaming, luggage was flying through the air, and then a blinding flash of white light struck the right wing. The engine exploded, and the plane simply broke apart in mid-air. Julianne felt the sickening sensation of weightlessness. She wasn't in a seat anymore. She was falling, strapped to a row of 3 chairs, spinning like a helicopter seed toward the dense canopy of the Peruvian Amazon 2 miles below. She remembers the wind whistling past her ears and the terrifying sight of the green carpet rushing up to meet her. Then there was only silence. She woke up the next morning under the shade of the trees. Her vision was blurred and her collarbone was shattered, but she was alive. She called for her mother over and over, but the only response was the buzzing of flies and the distant roar of howler monkeys. Julianne was the daughter of 2 world-class biologists. She had spent years living in the jungle with them, learning its secrets, and those secrets were about to save her life. She knew she couldn't stay near the wreckage because the trees were too thick for rescue planes to see her. She found a small bag of candy, the only food she would have for the next 11 days, and she began to walk. Her eye was swollen shut from the impact, and her body was covered in deep gashes, but her mind was sharp. She remembered her father's golden rule for survival in the jungle: always follow the water. She found a tiny trickle of a stream and started walking downstream, knowing it would eventually lead to a larger river and perhaps to civilization. The Amazon is not just a forest, it is a living, breathing predator. The heat was suffocating, reaching over 90 degrees with humidity so thick it felt like breathing underwater. Every step was a battle against sinking mud and hidden dangers. She had lost her glasses in the fall, so she had to feel her way through the undergrowth. She saw colorful frogs that she knew were poisonous and heard the rustle of jaguars in the distance. But the worst enemy wasn't the big predators, it was the insects. Flies laid eggs in her open wounds, and soon hundreds of maggots were eating her flesh alive, causing an agonizing itch and pain that kept her awake at night. By the 4th day, she heard the sound of search planes circling high above, but the canopy was a solid roof of green. She tried to wave, but it was useless. They couldn't see a lone girl in a torn summer dress walking through a green ocean. She felt a crushing sense of loneliness, knowing that everyone else on that flight was likely dead, and she was the only one left to tell the story. On the 6th day, the stream turned into a river. The water was dark and murky, hiding crocodiles and stingrays. Julianne had to swim in the middle of the river because the banks were too overgrown to walk on. She was exhausted, her legs were like lead, and her stomach was screaming for food, but she didn't stop. She floated with the current, letting the river carry her weak body toward an unknown fate. She was hallucinating, seeing phantom houses and hearing voices that weren't there, but her instinct to live was stronger than her desire to give up. By the 9th day, she stumbled upon a small boat tied to a riverbank. She thought it was another hallucination, but when she touched the cold wood, she knew it was real. Nearby, there was a small hut used by lumbermen. She crawled inside and found a can of gasoline. She remembered her father once treating a dog with maggots using kerosene, so she poured the gasoline over her infected arm. The pain was like fire, but as the maggots crawled out of her skin, she felt a grim sense of relief. She stayed in that hut for the night, shivering with fever and praying for someone to come. The next morning, 3 men appeared. They were terrified at first, thinking she was a blonde water goddess from their local myths. But when she spoke in Spanish and told them she was From the crashed plane they wept and carried her to safety. Julianne had survived a 2-mile fall and 11 days in the most brutal environment on Earth. When she was finally reunited with her father, the world watched in disbelief. She led the search teams back to the wreckage, where they found the remains of the plane and confirmed that she was indeed the sole survivor of LANSA Flight 508. This story isn't just about a miracle, it is about the resilience of the human spirit and the power of knowledge. Julianne Coep didn't just survive by luck. She survived because she refused to be a victim. She took her fear and turned it into a map. Today, she is a celebrated biologist who dedicated her life to protecting the very jungle that tried to claim her. She proved that even when you are falling through the clouds, and even when the world is dark and full of shadows, there is always a path home if you have the courage to keep walking. Her story reminds us that no matter how deep the jungle of our own lives, maybe we are never truly lost as long as we keep moving forward toward the light.